Welcome to MSRO CLASSROOM. Today we'll discuss the chapter The Portrait of a Lady by Khushwant Singh. Please like, subscribe and share the video. The Portrait of a Lady is a short story that describes the author's relationship with his grandmother, a kind and deeply religious woman. In the village, they share a close bond as she looks after him and takes him to school. After moving to the city, their relationship changes due to modern education and a generation gap. The grandmother becomes quiet and spends her time praying and feeding sparrows. When the narrator goes abroad, she remains calm. After his return, she celebrates briefly, then falls ill. The story concludes with her dying peacefully while praying. The short story teaches us to value relationships, respect elders, and appreciate the quiet strength of traditional values. Before we begin with the chapter, let's study the title of the story. A portrait usually means a picture or a detailed description of a person. Here, the author creates a word picture of his grandmother through her appearance, her habits, her values, her emotions. Like a portrait, the story creates a clear image of a character rather than focusing on events. The chapter can be seen as an extended character sketch, highlighting her spirituality, strength, and relationship with the author. Let's start with the chapter. The author describes his grandmother as old, wrinkled, and unchanged for many years. The author finds it difficult to envision or imagine his grandmother as either young or attractive. Although lacking physical attractiveness, she possesses spiritual beauty, calmness, and serenity. She consistently wears white attire, which symbolizes purity and simplicity. The grandmother is mentioned as constantly praying, telling the beads of her rosary, reading scriptures. These details indicate that the grandmother was deeply religious with a life centered on faith and discipline. Here I am adding a note. The relationship or bond between the author and grandmother changed in 3 phases. Phase 1, close companionship, village. Phase 2, growing distance, city. Phase 3, quiet separation, university. But their mutual love and respect remain constant throughout these transitions. The author and his grandmother shared a very close bond. She took complete care of him, woke him up, bathed and dressed him, prepared him for school. She recited prayers while preparing him with the intention of having him internalize or remember them. They went to a temple school together in the village. He studied and she read scriptures. While on their way back, she fed the village dogs chapatis. Phase 1 demonstrates a strong emotional bond and companionship within a traditional village context, where religion and daily life are closely intertwined. When they moved to the city, their relationship began to change. The author joined an English school while the grandmother stayed at home. She felt disturbed because she could not help him with English and science subjects. There was no teaching about God or the scriptures at the school. She strongly disapproved of music lessons, considering them unsuitable. She stopped going to school with him and began feeding sparrows instead of dogs. Phase 2 reflects the generational divide and the conflict between traditional values and modern education, resulting in emotional distance. As time passed, the author and grandmother spent less time together. He shared ideas of modern science, gravity, Earth being round, which she did not accept. She gradually became silent and withdrawn, showing disapproval without argument. Their relationship transitions from intimacy to quiet separation, although their mutual affection persists. When the author went to university, he got a separate room. The common link between them was almost broken physically. The grandmother accepted her loneliness with strength and resignation. She spent her days praying and telling her rosary beads, sitting at her spinning wheel, feeding sparrows in the afternoon, which gave her joy. Phase 3 reveals her ability to adapt with discipline and inner strength, illustrating or highlighting her resilience and calm acceptance of change. Next part is important. When the author went abroad for 5 years, he expected her to be emotional. However, she remained calm and composed. She did not show sadness. She silently kissed his forehead and continued praying. Her behavior exemplifies or shows emotional restraint and spiritual fortitude, as she refrains from outward displays of attachment. After 5 years, the author returned home. The grandmother welcomed him quietly but happily. That evening, she behaved unusually. She stopped praying. She gathered women and sang loudly while beating a drum. It was the first time she broke her routine. Her unusual behavior reveals her profound inner joy, expressed in a manner distinct or different from her customary composure. The next day, she fell ill with a mild fever. The doctor said it was not serious, but she believed her end was near. She felt she had wasted time by not praying the previous evening. She decided to stop talking completely, spend her final hours only in prayer. Her actions reveal spiritual awareness and acceptance of mortality, reflecting both strength of character and faith. While praying, she passed away peacefully. The rosary fell from her hand, and her face showed calmness and dignity. Her death signifies a serene and spiritual conclusion devoid of fear or suffering. Thousands of sparrows gathered around her body. They sat silently without chirping and refused to eat the bread offered to them. After her body was taken away, they flew away quietly. This atypical response affirms or shows the grandmother's deep connection with nature. The sparrows are expressing grief and respect in silence. Let's quickly move to the themes present in the story. First, love and emotional bond. The story highlights the deep bond between the child and the grandparent. Despite the physical separation, their love and respect remain unchanged. Second, generation gap. The grandmother represents a person from the past decade, while the author depicts a modern man of his time. The story highlights the lack of genuine understanding and dialogue between the old and the present. Differences appear in beliefs and lifestyle. This dynamic, and by that I mean changing relationships, time, and interactions, generates emotional distance, showing how societal change often produces generational gaps. Third, traditional education versus modern education. The grandmother believes in God, prayers, and scriptures. The author studies science and has an English education. The story shows a contrast between old traditions and new modern ideas. The theme subtly emphasizes that life transitions may disconnect individuals from their cultural roots or lead to indifference towards their civilization, their native belief system, and education. Fourth, change and passage of time. The story shows how relationships change. Life moves from childhood to adulthood. The grandmother remains constant, while the author's world changes. Over time, circumstances and lifestyles may change, yet fundamental values remain constant. Let's quickly go through the portrayal of the grandmother and the author in the story. The grandmother is a deeply religious, simple, and strong-willed woman. She spends most of her time in prayer and spiritual activities, showing her strong faith in God. She is loving and caring, especially towards her grandson, whom she raises with great affection. Despite the growing distance between them, she remains calm and accepting, never complaining. She shows great emotional strength when he goes abroad and even faces her own death with peace and dignity. Her bond with sparrows and animals reflects her kindness and gentle nature. The grandmother embodies traditional values, inner strength, and spiritual tranquility. The author is a loving and observant grandson who shares a deep bond with his grandmother. As a child, he is dependent and affectionate, enjoying her care and companionship. As he grows up, he becomes influenced by modern education and scientific thinking, which creates a distance between them. Nevertheless, he maintains respect and emotional attachment towards her, admiring her simplicity, resilience, and spirituality. His narration shows sensitivity and maturity, particularly in the depiction of her death and the sparrow's silent mourning. To summarize the explanation, the portrait of a lady effectively portrays the bond between the author and his grandmother. Through the grandmother's character, the author presents values of simplicity, spirituality, and inner strength. Despite the growing generation gap and distance, their love and respect remain constant. Her peaceful acceptance of death and her silent connection with nature adds to the story, encouraging appreciation of relationships, respect for elders, and recognition of the enduring or lasting strength of traditional values. We have finished explaining the Class 11 chapter, The Portrait of a Lady by Khushwant Singh. For more in-depth study, visit our reference website, MSROCLASSROOM.com, for exam-oriented summaries, extra questions, themes, character sketches, extract-based questions, and literary devices for Class 11th. In the next session, we'll analyze the poem A Photograph by Shirley Tolson. If you enjoyed the content, ask questions, subscribe, like, and share the video. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. Bye-bye.